Attention Central Georgia, it's that time again for the publication of the new 2015-16 Macon Middle Georgia Black Page. So you want to be a part of it because the theme is Make More Green in 2015. Call today, 478-464-0074 and find out how we can help you make more green in 2015. That's music. And tonight I'm very, very proud to be standing here with somebody who has music in her bones, who has a rich heritage of music. None other than Miss Karla Andrews, the daughter of the late, great Otis Redding. And last time I had Karla, I tried to sing Doc of the Bay, but I'm not going to sing that tonight.
Yeah, just don't. It's okay, because you forget the word.
Because I can't remember the words, but Karla has just done a phenomenal presentation on her dad Otis and his legacy and the history and the richness of him and what he has meant to this society, to this facility, to Macon, to the United States, and to the world. So we're going to give Miss Karla the rest of this time to talk about her dad and what he meant to this community and what he still means to this community. I want to thank you, for the presentation, and I'm sure you'll find it. Yes. I'm sure you'll find it very informative. And we really want to give Jerry McCoy and the Ruth Hartley Mosley Center.
Yes, a big shout out.
Yeah,
everything that she did
for sponsoring,
because it was a beautiful evening.
For sponsoring,
and also Sanford Bishop's office. Yes, and the mayor's office. Thank you so much.
And the Otis Redding Foundation.
And the Otis Redding Foundation, absolutely. And Ms. Redding.
Don't forget Ms. Redding. Yeah, so we just want to just give you the opportunity to watch this show, and you will find a lot of information, some of which you didn't know about Otis and his legacy. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. Love you.
I've got dreams to remember. I've got dreams to remember.
In honor of Miss Mosley and Miss Barnes and all of their efforts for the continuation of our rich Black history, which we have so much of. So I'm here today, as I always am, to represent Otis Redding and the Redding family, who I, like you all, have come to learn. Because I was so small when my father died, it wasn't until later in life that I was able to appreciate all the things that he did in 6 short years, all the things that his parents instilled in him, all the things that his church instilled in him. So I want to talk a little bit about that today and talk about all the influences around Macon that made him the great entertainer that he continues to be, because he certainly continues to be a legend, not only here at home, not only around the world, but internationally as well. So my father was born in Dawson, Georgia. I don't know how many of you know that, but moved here as a child. And lived actually in the historic Tyndall Heights area, which so many people talk about. Tyndall Heights is rough, and it's that was home to them, and they adored that area of town. And I remember when my father always came home, he came home first, but he went back to Tyndall Heights after he played with us for a while. So he was, raised in Tyndall Heights, went to Vineville Baptist Church, where my grandfather was a Baptist preacher. My uncle, who is my confidant and tells me everything about my dad, because they were like 2 peas in a pod. My dad had 6 sisters and 1 brother, and he always told my uncle that he was going to be a star, that he knew he was going to be a star. And he listened to the radio often, and he said, one day you will hear me on that radio. And you won't hear me once. You'll hear me a lot of times on that radio. So it's almost like he had a premonition that he was going to be a star. He sang in the church choir. Of course, that didn't last. Rhythm and blues was in his soul. You know, he went to the historic Douglas Theater and performed there 14, 15 times and won. And they finally said, please don't come back. Let somebody else win this time. So he paired up there with the famous Johnny Jenkins, who was already on his way to stardom. And Johnny Jenkins was destined to be this big, huge star, and went to Memphis, asked Daddy to drive him to Memphis so he could record an album there. Daddy, being the young cat he was, said, hey, for $10, I'll drive you anywhere. So he drove him to Memphis, and Mr. Jenkins recorded his session. Daddy continued to beg and plead, can someone please just let me sing, just let me sing. Finally they said, okay, you know, we know you can't sing, but just so you'll leave us alone, you know, we'll let you sing. And he stepped up to the microphone and started with These Arms of Mine, which turned out to be one of his biggest hits of all times. So from there, his career started. You know, he always left Macon, had 12 albums, and I can't even tell you how many top 10 hits, but Macon was home because he knew that his history and his legacy here was more important to him than around the world. All the people that influenced him, from the church and in the community, all of his teachers, people that really adored him and watched him succeed, he wanted them to be very proud of him. So even today, you know, we talk about how he influences other young musicians right here in Macon. African American musicians, white musicians alike. They channel Otis Redding when they're singing. Around the world, when they tour, the first thing that people say, we know Macon, Georgia, for Little Richard, of course, but they know it for Otis Redding and his tune, Sitting on the Dock of the Bay. We travel from east, west, north, south, and the one thing they remember is the great man he was and how he loved home. And that's what not a lot of musicians do today. They don't, you know, they don't talk about home. They get successful, they run away, they move to LA. Otis Redding was going to be right here in Macon. Always, all his life he was going to stay here in Macon. So, you know, James Brown was one of his influences. He and James kind of had a little rival kind of thing. You know, one would always try to outdo the other. But that's what we call camaraderie. You know, and they don't have a lot of that today where, you know, there's I'm better than you and you're better. But it was always, Otis, I know you're going to kill me, so I'm going to go on first. You know, you go second because I don't want you to show me up. And those are the type relationships that they had. But not only that, in this community, I think my father was one of the most influential people to calm racism. Because he didn't care what color you were. He never cared. Didn't matter to him, black, white, rich, poor. Everyone was respected. And that's just the way he was. And we don't see enough of that in our community today. I think music is the one thing that soothes the soul. Even when we go to church, we can go home and have a very bad day. I put on Otis Redding. I don't know what y'all put on, but I put on my Otis Redding, and I automatically have a very good day. I'm having a good evening with my glass of wine and my daddy. So, you know, if he were here today, he would still be just as involved in this community as we are. He was already being very philanthropic before he died, giving scholarships. We have a Otis Redding Law Scholarship at Mercer University, as well as we formed our foundation, Otis Redding Foundation. But he was doing that even before. Even before he had money to give away, he was giving away money, particularly to promote the importance of an education. And that's what we do with the Otis Redding Foundation. We continue that mission through him because he always wanted every kid to get a good education. He did not get to graduate from school. He had a young wife, a baby on the way, And she said, you better go sing somewhere, because I need diapers. So he had to go sing. However, he was very smart. And I don't know, I keep thinking, I keep wondering, how did you get smart? How did you know to protect your songs that you wrote? How did you know to protect your copyrights? How did you know to buy 300 acres of land when the white man said, I ain't selling it to you? How did you know how to buy 2 airplanes? Big swimming pool in the shape of an O, 90,000 gallons. Who has that vision in 1960? Certainly not a black man. Not a black. And I was just looking at Mr. Duval. We just put all our artifacts and archive stuff together, and I cannot tell you how many receipts I found from Paul Duval. Because all of our upholstery was done by the Duvals. And who did that back then? I mean, who even knew how to decorate? I wouldn't have known at 22 to decorate my house with drapes out of velvet. I wouldn't have known that, not in the 60s. But he was certainly smart. He was very smart. And my uncle always tells the story that they taught each other, which is so important to me. My uncle said they would be in the middle of negotiating a contract. And Daddy told him, wherever we go, you keep a dictionary. If he didn't know the word, he'd hit him and say, go out and look that up. My uncle still carries a dictionary today. He still carries a dictionary. So, you know, these type things are so historical that our kids need to know, especially in this community, that black people made things of themselves, not dependent on someone else to do it, but dependent on each other to make it. And I think that's why he was so successful, because he had a community around him, he had a family around him. His parents, you know, they weren't going to let him fail. If that was his passion, they were going to make sure he followed through with it. So we need to teach our kids that today, and that's part of the things that we do with the Otis Redding Foundation. Not only do we provide music and education programs, but we teach them every facet of business. A lot of kids don't know they don't know what we as parents go through in terms of trying to make it day to day. So when we have our camps, our summer camps, we teach them all about not only the music business, but just day-to-day life, which can gobble you up, really gobble you up. So my biggest success story as executive director of the Otis Redding Foundation is the fact that my mother and I saw a young black boy at the Boys and Girls Club in 2003. His dream was to go to Columbus State University and be a part of the music program. But the stipulation was he would get a scholarship if he had a French horn. So we said, okay, we see potential in you, we're gonna help you. Provided him with his French horn, graduated Columbus State, went and got his master's at Northwestern. Now he's an African American orchestra conductor. Wow. His name is Roderick Cox, and we are so proud of Roderick. And he comes back to this community and gives back. Not only does he give back to the community, but he also gives back to the foundation. So those are the kind of things that we, as a family of people, can see the good in everyone and help them get there. Help them play. It tell you to put on Dock of the Bay and play it 10 billion times. It still wouldn't service the number of times that it's played on the radio around the world every single day. Every day. Not missing a day in any state, somewhere it's played somewhere. We just got a certificate that it's been played over 400 billion times. 400 billion times. So my brothers and I, you know, we do what we can. Of course, I can't sing. I didn't get that talent. Didn't get it, and I certainly didn't get his height because I'm very vertically challenged. However, I did get his smarts. I got that one. And so I know he'd be very proud. Thank you. Thank you. I know he'd be very proud that I am the official spokesperson for his legacy and my mom's legacy, of course, because I cannot leave her out, because she was a strong woman to stand behind him, you know, with 3 small babies, and Daddy's constantly saying, well, I'm going to be a star, and she's like, well, we need milk. So where's the money for the milk? But he made her proud. I mean, you know, he told her, she's always told me that all he said is, all I want you to do is to take care of my kids. You don't have to worry about anything else. And she would say, she'd say to him, well, Otis, what if I die? What if you die? What happens? He said, you'll know what to do. You'll know. Don't worry about it. Almost like he had a premonition. And sure enough, after he died, she didn't know what to do. But she got educated to find out what to do. And is still doing it today. Still doing it. Still protecting that legacy. Still overseeing the estate. Still overseeing the radio commercials and jingles and TV ads and, you know, copies, Kanye trying to take records. And I mean, you know, but things happen, and you know, we just appreciate people remembering him for what he was, because he was a true superstar in 6 short years. I mean, it's taken me 20 years to get to this point. So for him to do what he did in 6 years, 12 albums, you know, over 40 top 10 hits, and this and that, and never going to his head though, never realizing that he was as big as he was. So I know he's real proud right now that people still remember. I know he is.
I've got dreams, dreams to remember. I've got dreams.
We've learned a lot today, and we are proud of our music and our music history in Macon, and we're proud to be a part of it. And we thank you for the words you said earlier.
Welcome.
I was born by the river in a little tent. Oh, just like that river, I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change's gonna come. It's been hard times of living, but I'm afraid to die, 'cause I don't know what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long, long
Friday night, and we are so appreciative of you all coming out tonight. I'm Dr. Thomas Duval, President of the Ruth Hartley Mosley Women's Center Advisory Board. I want to bring you greetings from the historic Ruth Hartley Center Board members, and they are Miss Laura Lynn Avery, Reverend J.D. Collins, Mr. John Tolliver, and Miss Ella Carter, and of course our director, Miss Jerry McCord. I'm going to be very brief. So I'm going to try something here so that my introduction speech is very brief. I want you all to look at this little rag doll. And I want you to look at this phone, okay? Now this is a phone, but this is also a 17th and 18th century hearing aid. Okay? So I want you to visualize me holding the doll next to the doll's ear, the phone. My vision for the Ruth Hartley Mosley Women's Center is to funnel local, cultural, and historical knowledge into the minds, hearts, and souls of our Macon, Middle Georgia at-risk children. We want to use creative and engaging activities that develop positive self-esteem and motivate the children to want to learn. Children need to know they have an ancestral obligation to learn.
I'm the staff person for the Georgia African American Historic Preservation Network. And what the network is about are people all over the state of Georgia that are trying to save African American places. And if we can't save the place, then we can certainly save the story. And we have some very powerful stories right here in Macon that we're now trying to preserve. The things I do is write a publication called Reflections. And Reflections today is an online publication, but in 2004, it was a print publication. So when Jerry McCord invited me to today's event, I dug in my archives, and I'd like to present the 2004 issue with Ellen and William Graham. Very good. Your story is not just about Macon, but it's about Georgia's African American past. Right. And so I brought this copy for you today. I'd like to present it to you. Oh. And thank you so much for keeping this legacy alive.
Encourage everybody. You know, everybody can play a role in the improvement of our community. You can do it through your church. You can do it through supporting the businesses and the black pages. You can do it through volunteering in the neighborhood. You can do it through going to city council meetings. You can do it through supporting nonprofits. But if we could get, if we could get everybody to realize that he or she, I understand that you do some volunteering.
I do.
That's important. You know, everybody needs to realize that we need to give back, give back, give back. And, you know, and it doesn't take a lot from any individual if there are a lot of people moving forward trying to assist the community. So one thing I would like to see, you know, I would like to see us become a more unified community, Baptists and Methodists and Catholics and Muslims, and a more unified community. White folk, black folk, Asians, Latino, and that can happen. But I think that if we just kind of make that a project, you know, one time been a long time ago, I'm surprised I remember it. But somebody told me one time, make yourself a committee of one to try to get something done. So we'll be involved in the committee.
So technically, what you just gave everyone was a call to action.
A call to action.
You mentioned a forum, and you wanted it to be focused on black crime. I want you to kind of address why you feel like that's important for our specific community.
Because, you know, a whole lot of folk got mad with Mayor Giuliani when he compared mentioned the fact that there were 2,500 African Americans killed in this country by African Americans. You know, and my point is, sure, we need to get excited when other injustices are done, but it's an injustice for us to be killing ourselves, killing each other rather. And so I think that it can be addressed. I really do. But I think if we were to come together and try to identify the problems and then try to come up with a solution that, you know, this would be, and it's hurting everybody. You know, because industry, when they want to come to town, you know, they look at the crime rate.
So when we shift that information, those problems, over to some positive things, what are some things that you feel like should be overshadowing some of the violence here in Bibb County?
Job, recreation. I think sometimes an idle mind is the devil's workshop. You know, so I think if we were to do that, that would help a lot. Programs and activities. You know, like we got a lot of family life centers here in Central Georgia. You know, if some of these gyms and both school gyms and church gyms would open up to different programs, I think that would make a difference. Other gestures that show young people that we care, that we're interested in them. Attention Central Georgia, it's that time again for the publication of the new 2015-16 Macon Middle Georgia Black Page. So you want to be a part of it because the theme is Make More Green in 2015. Call today, 478-464-0074 and find out how we can help you make more green in 2015.
.makingBlackPages.com